top hats and mutton shoes, erotic intense midnight cruise, Bergland Gay Society in 1903. Sigmund Freud's Vienna's hype identifies the homotype, the intermediate sex, and heterodoxy. The gay wave moves across the sea. Hello there, Miss Liberty. Betty Boop is hot and hooches out in the cold. Greenwich Village, Bloomsbury, gays in high society. Harlem Night, Chicago fights, Leopold and Loeb. Pride, gotta have pride. Been around too long to keep it inside. Pride, gets it back and watch from the side. Pride is power and power is pride. It's time to celebrate all the colors of the rainbow. Get out into the streets, follow the tide.
Hi, I'm Brian McNaught, and this is Stonewall Portraits, Profiles in Pride, a half an hour oral history with some of the people who have made an impact on the lives of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. And our guest today is Christopher Bergland, who is an athlete of record proportions and an author of The Athlete's Way, and from my perspective, a spiritual guide. And we are delighted to have you. And I'm eager to talk with you about what it means to be an athlete and about your life. But let me first say, just so you know, when I say athlete, I'm not talking about that he's good at rugby, which would be great. But Christopher holds the Guinness Book of Records title for 24 hours running on a treadmill.
Mm-hmm. Non-stop.
Yep. And the last hour of which he does not remember.
Basically,
and he won 3 triple Ironman competitions where you don't run just 26-mile marathon, you run 78 miles.
Yep,
and then
3 marathons at the end.
3 marathons back to back.
Yep.
For 48 hours usually.
Well, it's non-stop. You swim 7 miles, you bike 336, and then you run 78.
You bike 336 miles.
Yeah. And then I did it in 38 hours was my fastest.
And they're all back to back. You don't stop for lunch at McDonald's or okay.
You eat while you're going.
Okay, so here you are. There's no. Has anybody else won 3 titles doing the triple?
I don't know.
Okay, so let's assume not. Let's say so. Here it is. You at this moment are the world's leading endurance athlete. Is that an okay thing?
Gosh, I mean, I wouldn't.
Well, all right, and you're gay.
I am gay, and yes.
And so that's what's interesting to me
about
the whole thing about the gay men being sissies, being teased in high school, and often we buy into it and believe it, and so we don't see ourselves as athletic.
Totally.
So let's talk about Christopher. Tell me about your so you're 46. 46.
Born in 1966.
Okay, and you. Which was when I graduated from high school. So you come from how large a family and where are you
have
from?
2 sisters.
Yeah.
I was born in Manhattan. My father was a surgeon, a neurosurgeon.
A really very successsul man who you idolize.
I did.
Yes. His dad has passed.
He's passed away in 2007. I have a daughter named Mirabelle, who was born 2 weeks before he died, basically, which was, and I was so grateful that he got to.
Your daughter is somebody that is being raised by
a friend, another triathlete, an Ironman. I did regular Ironmans too. I've done a bunch of those all over the world.
Yes.
So I met a woman named Bo, and we had a daughter.
She wanted to have a baby, and she wanted your DNA.
I like to think she wanted my DNA and my I call it genes and memes.
Genes and memes?
Yeah, she wanted my whole, maybe, ancestry. My collective unconscious that has been collected along the way.
When did you start running, or was that your first?
Well, my dad was from Montana. He was the son of missionaries, and...
Mormon?
No, they were... They're Scandinavian, and I should know. I don't even know what they were.
Okay, so after this
but
you can go.
They were. I should go find out. But they went to. I think they were trying to convert Indians to Christianity. So they went to the Badlands, and he lived a very. He grew up very poor.
Okay.
And he wanted to get out of Montana. So there was one guy in the town who had a tennis court, and he went and started playing tennis, and decided that he had a natural ability at racket sports, and so he practiced really hard, and became the Montana State tennis champion. Got a scholarship to go to Wheaton College, like not the one near Boston, the Wheaton, the more religious Wheaton.
Right.
And then from there, went on to sort of live the American dream. He always wanted me to be a tennis star.
He wanted you to be beyond board?
Yeah.
That was his idol at the time?
It was mine too.
That was your
I had posters of him.
And when did you start playing tennis?
Probably, I guess people would say like as soon as I could hold a racket. But
okay.
I mean, basically.
Did you know you were gay as soon as you held the racket?
I think like most people, I knew I was gay. I was born in Manhattan, but we moved to Hershey, Pennsylvania in the 70s, and I loved all I went to see the Carpenters in concert. I loved all that music that was, looking back, there's,
So you love Karen Carpenter.
I think I had a crush on Richard Carpenter.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were in Pennsylvania. I loved being there. We had horses, and we went to Mennonite church.
Yeah.
My fourth grade teacher was a Mennonite, and really had a huge impact on my sort of spiritual, I guess, awakening. Okay. I still communicate with her, by the way, Christina Neff. I love her.
So fourth grade, spiritual, have a tennis racket in your hand, and know you're gay.
Yep.
So those seem to be three threads of your life.
Yeah, that's true.
Your spirituality, your athleticism, and your homosexuality.
Yeah, no,
how did they?
It's true.
But how did they all
come together?
Well,
I guess
right now you're not pounding your body like you did.
I refused to. I retired after that treadmill thing. I was in the ICU for 5 days, almost died of kidney failure, and
had no idea you were even ill or that you had.
No, because I was fearless in my prime.
Why were you fearless? Where did the fearlessness come from? And how much of it was related to your feelings about being gay?
A lot of it. I mean, I write for Psychology Today, and I really am going back now to sort of figure out this. At the time, it was the water I swam in. It all seemed very normal because it was a natural progression from 5Ks to 10Ks to marathons to Ironmans to triple Ironmans to running through Death Valley to. It all seemed very normal to me.
And yet you got winded when you came up.
I know. That's like anaerobic.
And you've got a. I didn't get winded, and you got a Band-Aid
on
your arm
from
falling.
Yesterday.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh well.
So you retired after how long ago was that?
That was in 2004. Yeah.
So you've been taking better
care of it. Well, I always say to people like. I wrote a book about ultra endurance sports, and it's become, I think.
Is that the Athlete's Way?
Yeah, basically. And I was sort of first wave with that. I was pushing a new frontier, and it's sort of all been done now. And I get emails from people wanting to break new barriers, and it's really hard to do it without. It becomes it's not healthy to do what I did, So I sort of have a caveat. If it's something that you can't not do, then do it, but don't. It's not something you should aim to do because you can't lead a balanced life doing what I did. I lived in a complete vacuum for basically 10 or 15 years. It was just
From what age to?
Well, I mean, I guess going back to that triad of my spirituality, my gayness, and my sports. My parents had a really bad divorce, so in sort of that adolescence period.
How old were you?
It started, the 6th grade, my dad took a sabbatical, we just traveled, and that was really when their marriage fell apart, because we were basically just we got these tickets where you can go one way around the world. So it was just horrible, and so we all had to be together as a family, and then we went from that trip straight to Boston. So I was in the 7th grade, and we moved to Brookline, and I was going to the Park School in Brookline, and it was just the divorce began then. So it was like War of the Roses.
So, but how old were you when you started to isolate and just
7th grade?
7th grade.
Yep, I lived on the top floor of this house in Brooklyn.
Did you have best buddies?
I had at the Park School. I had 2 friends, Jeff and Paula. We were like a triad.
How could they keep if you were isolating and running?
I wasn't running yet.
Okay.
No, I became completely unathletic. When my parents' divorce started, and I didn't do any sports 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. No grade. No sports.
You didn't do
no
any sports in high school?
No, I was like a party person. No sports.
Oh,
no sports.
Okay. So you weren't on the track team or?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
It was really right, sort of at the end. I guess it was 17. Right at the end, I was at boarding school and I had kind of a meltdown. We were kind of a bunch of kamikazes at boarding school. So I had to kind of regroup, and I discovered running in '83.
Who introduced you to it?
Actually, I went to the New Balance outlet in Brighton, and I wanted to. It was based on vanity. Like that was when that Calvin Klein poster was out of the guy, and I wanted to like look like one of those people.
So you were motivated in sports. That's well. Listen, and you do. I mean, you have pictures on your website that you do look like the Calvin Klein person, but. So that look just told me that you don't see yourself looking like that, which is what I want to talk about too with you, is this whole idea of gay men wanting to have these extraordinary bodies, and some go to the gym to do it.
Yep.
You ran to do it.
Luckily it switched for me. Let me take that back. I think any motivation is good. When I wake up in the morning, I have like a Rolodex of reasons I want to exercise, and it always is to look good as part of it. But as I got into running, for me, I was such a ne'er-do-well in high school. But that summer when I discovered running, my whole mindset turned around, and I went from being really cynical and negative to being optimistic and ambitious. So when I got to college,
because of running,
and that's my message to people about running.
So you went from. Your attitude changed?
Completely. That's why I write about neuroscience. My mindset changed. I look different. I finished college in 3 years. I went to Hampshire College, like a hippie school with no tests or grades. But I went there because I thought I could just cruise through. And then I got there and I was so on fire and so passionate about learning and stuff. And running just started that whole change, for me.
So for the gay people, male particularly, who are watching you and saying, I could never run on a treadmill, but I go to the gym and I build up.
Yeah.
What is your message as a 46-year-old gay super endurance athlete to people about the connection between being gay, athletic, and spiritual? And do you see spirituality in the lives of people who are going to the gym and pumping up?
It's so hard to gauge that. I mean, the gym culture in general, to me, doesn't tap into the same well that I would go to as when I'm out there through cardio, through running. I think something happens. Almost like through our evolutionary biology, that when we move our bodies aerobically, that things open up, and it readjusts, things to where they. Like I have a quote in my book, the first quote: "Exercise, ferments the humors, casts things into their proper channels, and without which you can act with cheerfulness." And so I think
that's a challenging quote.
You love easy ones too.
Your basic quote, which is on the back of one of your T-shirts, is that sweat equals bliss.
It's true, and so I guess what I'm saying, basically to me, exercise, you can do cardio, you can do strength training, and you can do like a yoga thing. To me, yoga and cardio are going to be much more spiritual than just strength training. So when I see people who just focus on the gym, getting pumped up, I don't want to say that it's not great to do it, but it doesn't take me to the same place.
And what place do you get taken by the running?
Yeah.
Where do you go?
Well, that's interesting. I think...
And how has running changed your attitude towards being gay?
Wow. Well, I go to a peaceful place, and I think everyone, I think it's universal. There's a place, anyone who runs or does aerobics, you know the feeling. When you get there, you sort of know it. You sort of feel connected to yourself, to nature, to things around you. And in terms of being gay, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Part of it is very positive because it makes me feel resilient and strong, and like I can face anything. You know, you have a sense of self-reliance through running. If you get through point A to point B, you're like, I can do this. But there's again, like the backside of that is that I took it too far. Like I used it to escape. You know, I think of a lot of Ironman triathletes. You get into this, you know, the runner's high, the most simple version. It's very addictive. You know, it's a very protected place. You're in control. It's you know, you don't have to deal with the rest of the world. You can sort of block things out. So it's a very thin line between it being a sanctuary in a good way, and sort of almost like its own sort of prison. In
what
were
you escaping?
Well, it's changed over the years. I mean, I think about it a lot in terms of when I was coming out in '83, because the AIDS epidemic had just started. And so I was in New York and I joined ACT UP, and my whole generation was kind of getting wiped out. And so...
You joined ACT UP?
In '88.
In '88, but just as you were, but you came out in '83?
No, I didn't quite come out in '83. I guess I was 22 in '88. You know, I graduated college in '88, so, you know, I came to P-Town. That was my first summer in Provincetown.
Right.
So that was my kind of, you know, really coming out.
Were you mentored as a gay person?
No,
Did you find everything on your own?
Well, luckily through the college I went to, I was friends with two women whose grandmother, I actually live in their grandmother's house now, here in Provincetown, Sunny and Tasha. So I met them and we were all just very close friends, and so they brought me to Provincetown.
And you were out in college?
Like, yeah.
To a small group?
Yes, I would, not to my parents, but we would all go to this place, Pearl Street in Northampton, dancing on Wednesdays.
And when did your father knew you as an athlete before he knew you were gay?
No, the athlete, I kind of snuck up on people with my athletic ability because I was such an adamant, like, not athletic. I was a hippie, I would have, like, dreadlocks, and I was so not into sports or anything like that. So when I started to sort of show potential winning small races in New York, people were like, whoa, where did that come from? And myself included, I was kind of surprised.
Were you running with dreadlocks?
I don't know if a phase of my life I definitely was. Yeah, of course, yeah, I was, but not when I started competing. I think.
So, Chris, what made you start? I mean, there are a lot of people out there who don't see themselves as athletic. What made, and a lot of gay men who have been told that they can't be athletic.
Of course, yes.
What made you go from resisting it to embracing it?
The positive feedback I think I got every day through it. I think that's
from yourself or from others.
Well, I guess both. It's like, you know, I guess you get, you know, we all, you know, I guess people are like, well, you look good. What are you doing, or something like that. But more, I think, you know, once you start exercising regularly, I'm very very into sort of the daily routines of people, and I just realized, wow, I feel so much better after I've run, you know, so I want to feel like that tomorrow, you know, and the next day and the next day. So
did it influence at all as you were running the stages that you were going through with your sexuality?
Yeah, I don't know if I made this point before with the ACT UP stuff. I used running at a certain point, like, you know, the ACT UP motto is silence equals death.
Right.
And to me, it was sex equals death, I think, in some way. So I did.
That's how you saw it.
Well, I just saw so many of my friends. Like, I felt like I was right on this edge of the generation right before. I was right on the edge, sort of holding on to not die from this, and it was. And I had a really strong libido at that time, so I think I used running to suppress it. You know what I mean? And to just not even. I just sort of was like you know, and that was.
Well, I think it's not uncommon that people in your generation who came out during the AIDS epidemic equated sex with death.
Yeah, well, I had to. I mean, it was right everywhere I went. I worked in a restaurant, and people were just wasting away. I mean, I was in the West Village. You know, that zip code 10014 was in some ways like sort of ground zero, and it was a terrifying time. You know.
So you equated sex with death. You saw in running then became a means of sublimating your libido. Yeah. Are you out to Dad and Mom yet? Because your father's opinion of you, at least if I picked up in the book, was very important to you.
It was. I can't. The dates are become so murky. I was definitely outed by my family. We went to a wedding in New Orleans, and we were staying in a gay guest house in the French Quarter. And I came back into the common area of the guest house, and my whole family was sitting down. Like my dad wasn't there because their parents were divorced, but my mom and my two sisters, and they said, "Chris, we need to talk to you about something." I was like, "Oh gosh, like here we go." So then my sister asked me, "Are you gay?"
Because
you
were staying in a gay.
No, because it was all kind of, and it was at a wedding, and you know how at weddings everyone's like, so when is he gonna get married? Who's his girlfriend?
Yeah, but why were you in a gay guest house?
Who knows? I don't know. I didn't book it, but I would go walking off. I don't know. Maybe I was acting squeamish.
Yeah. So you came out. Your folks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your mom.
Yep, I did.
And then your dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably like 90.
Okay.
Or 91. Yeah.
So do you feel? Your dad's dead. Do you feel that you got his approval?
Oh, hugely. I mean, yes, beyond. I mean, my parents were always very progressive thinkers and very liberal politically. They were just sort of Victorian, or they were just like everybody, a little bit. Sex made them like
uncomfortable.
Yeah, and they
it's
just
dirty.
had no experience.
Save it for someone you love.
Yeah. But they, but no, they did the work. Like my mom was working with a woman who had a gay son, and that woman became her sort of, held her hand through the thing. And then my dad actually in a weird way kind of liked that he's just a renegade. He kind of liked it because...
That you were gay?
In a weird way, I think he did.
Huh.
Because he was never like a lemming. He never wanted to follow the crowd. And he just, as he saw that I was really kind of fiercely independent, like a free thinker, and didn't want to play by the rules necessarily, he liked that. And he kind of, so he was actually into it. He kind of almost bragged about it in a weird way.
Well, that's unusual.
Yeah. It was cool.
So, going back, running the thread, being gay, and spirituality.
Yeah.
How do you define spirituality?
Wow. That's such a huge, I don't use that word that often because it's such a big word to me. I would say a feeling of connectedness to something bigger than you, I would say. I just made that up.
Are you religious? In
no.
terms of dogma?
No.
Any
No.
major affiliation with any?
No, I'm like anti-dogma.
Anti-dogma.
But I know that all roads lead to the same path, so I'm not like a theologian, but I know that every religion says basically the same thing.
Right.
Like the golden rule, treat other people like you would want to be treated.
So, okay, so you have a title that probably is going to last for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's some skepticism in the actual Guinness Book of World Records because people do funny things. But there's a guy in Germany who keeps track of records, and I've had that record for 8 years. So yeah, because it still holds that record.
So do you feel satisfied that as an athlete, you have achieved what you want to achieve in life?
Oh,
there are no more mountains to climb.
No. Well, I realized that luckily, no.
So that's it.
Too much. Almost like Wild Lobster Claw, I did one thing so well that everything else atrophied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what your message of the book though is to exercise.
Well, yeah, at a tonic level, I say, and just a little bit goes a long way. Walking to me is the best medicine. That's a quote I think from Hippocrates or something like that.
You have a lot of quotes in your book. You love quotes.
I do.
They're really great quotes.
Thank you. I do like them.
You put
because they pop into
my.
I read them and I'm like, I have my antenna up for them, and if it resonates, and a lot of the quotes, it's fun for me to go back to that book because I knew there was something in them that I liked, but I didn't quite know what it was. And as I get older and go back and read them, I'm like, oh yeah, that really is appropriate for now.
So being an athlete who's gay, who most gay people couldn't compete with, or straight people couldn't compete with in terms of endurance of what you've achieved.
Yeah.
What's your assessment of where gay men are athletically or physically or emotionally, spiritually?
Yeah.
You take a look at, you went through the AIDS crisis and you saw people decimated.
Yeah.
And it impacted your thinking about sex and how you were going to express yourself or not. Okay, so we're through that. Now our culture seems to be so dominated by an obsession with muscles, and there are a lot more Calvin Klein posters out. I mean, movies now celebrating male strippers. What is your attitude as somebody who, in your book, is prophetic about where gay men are today? And what would you suggest?
I think we're all. I mean, everyone wants to. I think to feel worthy of love and belonging. I think is what I've been focusing on recently, and I think that, I mean, some of the work I'm doing with combating childhood obesity and preaching a message to people from all walks of life, especially gay teens, about the power of sports, is that you really create a sense of self-love, and self-worthiness that comes, and this sounds so cheesy, but comes from inside. So I think the focus on external appearance, it's like, for everyone, it's just, to me, that is not a spiritual path. So I think.
Is anyone ever fully satisfied with the way they look?
Exactly, you're never satisfied, and
so there's no end to it.
There's not, and the whole plastic surgery thing, and
in terms of people having pectoral implants,
and also the genetic aspect. I mean,
and
you can't change. I'm very much into this sort of free to be you and me, and I would just like to take the emphasis off of. I mean, it's been said forever, all the airbrush. I mean, now with Photoshop, the things they do to the magazines. I mean, everyone talks about it all the time. But there's this ideal, and you never compete. I mean, the body dysmorphia is, that term, body dysmorphia, where you look in the mirror and you look one way and you see this, and.
If you were fat as a child, no matter how much you develop, you still look in the mirror and see a fat kid.
Yeah, and I think it just fuels, and the whole youth obsession within all cultures, but I think with gay men, when you put such a premium on your sex appeal, and that's one bigger issue of being homosexual, like with a capital SEX.
Right.
To focus on sex all the time.
How does somebody get out of that? How do you take somebody who is a gym bunny and
forming intimate relationships and realizing the feeling that you're searching for in terms of a sense of being worthy of love and belonging, and forming really close-knit, intimate bonds with other people.
Do you start with yourself? I mean,
I think so. You have to do a lot of self-reflection. I mean, I've also been through analysis and at the White Institute and stuff like that. So I've spent a lot of time. There's a certain point you can't overthink it, but I think that just seeking. I put that at the end of my book. That friends and family are the most important thing, and we know that in terms of longevity. That's pretty basic. That you need to have a sense of spiritual belief, a strong, close-knit human bonds, be physically active, and keep your calories in, calories out balance. It's a very simple, sort of just those four things.
Okay, so let's go back.
Sorry.
You and I met over Camp Lightbulb, which. Yeah. Crazy name, but it's a camp for gay youth, and you're going to be working with the youth on sports and athletics.
Fitness.
And what's so you said there are 4. Are you going to share these with
these
gay teens?
What I'm going to do with the camp is I'm the fitness director, but I'm going to sort of plan things throughout Provincetown that will take advantage of the natural beauty here. Like going up the monument, across the breakwater, and do stuff like that.
You guys are coming over to our house to go water skiing.
We are, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And then I do some, I have, my sort of platform is the athlete's way, just talking about sort of really about mindset of sport and how you can apply it to everything in life, So I'm going to do some, in the mornings after we have breakfast, we're going to do like a 45-minute sort of workshops, on really mindset and the psychology behind sports. And then I want to give the teenagers the nuts and bolts, which are pretty basic, of how to structure a well-rounded fitness program. It's pretty basic. There's no mystery. I think people try to make it seem like it's very mysterious, like lifting weights, but it's pretty basic.
What is it?
Well, it's those 3 things. I mean, some cardio, flexibility, or yoga.
Okay, so let's say them slowly. Yeah. Slowly. You mentioned 4 principles, though.
Oh, yeah, those are longevity,
okay,
yes.
So one is spiritual.
Connectedness.
But that doesn't mean religious. It means that you just have a sense that there's something bigger than you, and there's an effort to have some sort of relationship with it.
Yes.
Friends and family, meaning that you have something beyond yourself.
Yes, very close-knit human bonds and a sense of community, like the most important.
Well, can that be a dog?
That is true. Yes, it can be. But I'm a humanist.
Raise horses.
I think I'm a humanist. I think human beings I think we need to connect with other humans too.
Okay. Okay, so, and then third?
And then third would be physical activity, daily physical activity.
No matter what your age?
Yeah, and just a little bit goes a long way.
Well, what do you do with the person who used to be a runner and now can't run?
Yeah, work around it. I mean, I've been injured. Walk, do whatever, ride the elliptical, swim. Just move your body. Just
every day.
Physicality, just a little, anything goes a long way.
This is a life plan for
Yeah, everybody.
Okay, and the fourth thing?
Is, I call it energy balance of calories in, how much you eat, and how much you burn through movement.
Right.
So,
do you have to have a calorie counter to
no,
do that?
it's common sense. I mean, everyone knows their metabolic rate. You know, you when you sit down to eat, you know when you're crossing the line, and I'm not into rules about diet. I don't like to forbid foods. Just use common sense. You know, eat. We all know what healthy foods are.
Right. Okay. So, given all of that, is there any additional gay connection to the four things you mentioned?
A gay connection?
Yeah.
I do think there is because I think that first of all, gay people can feel very isolated. I think one of the most difficult things about not being out of the closet. I think one reason everyone should come out of the closet is that we are not automatically a part of a group that's identical from the outside. So you can live in your community and pass as being straight. Right. And it's very isolating.
So coming out is a really important
because
part.
and then you don't have real close and intimate bonds because if everyone's in the closet, you can't, if you're trying to compartmentalize one part of yourself and like squish it down and hide it from people, you're not really fully being who you are and being authentic. And I don't think I don't think you can really connect with people.
If you're not out.
Yeah, if you're not, and I do. And I think also the practice that you get as a teenager, by forming, I watched my niece, honestly, going, all the things she goes through in high school with dating, and most gay people don't have that practice. So then I see a sort of delayed adolescence that just goes on and on and on and on.
Okay. So I need to wrap up with
Okay.
you, but so here's a couple quick questions.
Okay.
How do you want to be remembered? You fall down the stairs. You had so much trouble coming up, and you die, and the Banner or the New York Times, the Boston Globe, whatever, has a story about you. What is it that you want to?
Well, I'd like to think that I made the most of what I had, what I was given by, in this lifetime, by where I was born, who my parents were, what I achieved, and that I basically went off and explored sort of the outer reaches and came back and tried to share some of what I learned with people.
Like Siddhartha.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and now I'm on a mission just to do that.
And on a scale of 0 to 10.
Yes.
How happy are you?
7.5.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's all right.
How happy are you? What's your number?
I'm actually right up at 10.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
all right, I'll try to get there.
I think you're there, and you're just not allowing yourself to say so. So, our guest and our spiritual physical mentor, Christopher Bergland, author of The Athlete's Way. Thank you for your contributions to our lives and for joining us in this program.
Great, thanks for having me.
Gotta have pride. Been around too long to